3 days after they killed his sister, Taeyang arrived at the council station. He was 38 years old, a commander in Earth's Stellar Navy, and he had spent the last 3 days watching the execution video on repeat. He had watched the blade fall. He had watched Jiwoo's body tumble into the beast's mouth. He had watched his baby sister die over and over until the images burned into his brain. Now he stood in the station's diplomatic quarter, his uniform pressed sharp, his face carefully blank. Ambassador Hana had warned him to stay calm. Getting angry wouldn't bring Jiwoo back. It would only make things worse for Earth. But Taeyang didn't feel angry. He felt hollow. "I'm here to claim my sister's remains," he told the council representative behind the desk. It was a slug-like creature with too many eyes, its body enclosed in a floating mobility pod. "Impossible," the creature said without looking up from its data screen. "Criminals consumed by the Malgoth cannot be honored with burial rites. This is union law." "She was innocent," Taeyang said quietly. The council determined otherwise. The creature finally looked at him. "Is there anything else?" Taeyang wanted to reach across that desk and squeeze the life out of the thing. Instead, he turned and walked away. His hands were shaking. He shoved them in his pockets. Ambassador Hana was waiting for him in the corridor. She looked even more tired than she had during the trial. Her hair was starting to gray at the temples. "I'm sorry," she said. "I tried to negotiate for her remains. They won't budge." "I know." Taeyang stared at the floor. "Did you find anything?" "Any proof she was set up?" Hana glanced around. The corridor was empty, but that didn't mean they weren't being watched. She leaned closer and dropped her voice to a whisper. "Meet me at Dock 17 in an hour. Come alone." Then she walked away quickly, her footsteps echoing. Taeyang did as she asked. Dock 17 was a maintenance bay on the lower levels, used for repair drones and storage. When he arrived, Hana was already there, along with a young woman he didn't recognize. "This is Soman," Hana said. "She works in the council's xenobiology department. She has information." Soman looked terrified. She was maybe 29, small and nervous, with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She kept glancing at the door like she expected guards to burst through any moment. "I shouldn't be here," Soman said. "If they find out I'm talking to you, I'll end up like your sister." "Then talk fast," Taeyang said. He didn't mean to sound harsh, but he was tired of being careful. Soman pulled out a data tablet and handed it to him. "I was part of the team that analyzed Jiwoo's research. There was nothing illegal in her work. Nothing even close. She was studying evolution patterns in carbon-based life forms, standard stuff." "Then why did they kill her?" Taeyang demanded. "Because she found something else by accident." Soman's hands were shaking. "She discovered that human DNA has a unique marker, something that doesn't exist in any other known species. It's a form of latent psionic potential." Taeyang stared at her. "Psionic? Like telepathy?" "More than that. Under extreme stress, human DNA can activate abilities we don't fully understand. Adaptation, regeneration, even consciousness transfer. The Council has known about this for years, but they've been suppressing it. They're afraid that if humans realize what they're capable of, we'll become the dominant species in the galaxy." "So they framed her?" Hana said quietly. "They planted evidence in her research files to make it look like she was accessing forbidden archives." Soman nodded. "The order came from someone high up in the council. I don't know who. But they wanted Jiwoo silenced, and they wanted to send Earth a message. Stay in your place or this is what happens." Taeyang felt something crack inside his chest. Jiwoo had died for discovering that humanity had potential. She had died because the council was afraid. "There's something else," Soman said. Her voice dropped even lower. "Something's wrong with the Malgoth." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. "It started the day after it ate Jiwoo. The beast began acting strange. It's refusing food. It's making sounds the handlers have never heard before, and its scales are changing color in patches." "Changing how?" "Blue. The same color as human blood under certain spectrum analyzers." Soman looked at both of them. "I managed to hack into the monitoring systems in the cavern. The Malgoth's vital signs are all over the place. Its brain activity has tripled. Something is happening inside it, and the handlers are starting to panic." Taeyang felt his breath catch. Is it possible that Jiwoo somehow survived? Survived being beheaded and digested? Salman shook her head. "No, that's impossible, but..." She hesitated. Human DNA under extreme stress can do strange things, and being eaten by the Malgoth is about as stressful as it gets. Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the station. The sound was deafening, pulsing through the walls. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "What's happening?" Hannah shouted over the noise. Soman checked her tablet. Her eyes went wide. "It's the Malgoth. It's in distress. Full emergency protocols." The three of them ran toward the observation levels above the cavern. Other beings were rushing in the same direction, handlers and technicians and council security. When they reached the viewing platform, they could see down into the cavern through the reinforced transparent floor. The Malgoth was thrashing. Its massive body slammed against the cavern walls hard enough to shake the entire station. Its roars were different from before, higher-pitched, almost like it was in pain, or trying to speak. "It's been like this for an hour," a handler said nearby. "We don't know what's wrong with it." Taeyang pushed to the front of the crowd. He stared down at the beast. Those patches of blue on its scales were spreading. They looked like veins of light running through the darkness. And the Malgoth's eyes, those terrible star-like eyes, were flickering between their usual cold glow and something else, something warmer, something human. "Jiwoo," Taeyang whispered. The Malgoth's head snapped up. It looked directly at him through the transparent floor. For just a moment, its eyes locked with his, and Taeyang saw something impossible: recognition. Then the beast threw its head back and screamed. The sound shattered equipment. Beings covered their ears. The transparent floor cracked. Crystalline growths began erupting from the Malgoth's scales. They spread across its body like ice forming on a window, beautiful and terrible. The beast collapsed to the cavern floor, convulsing. "Evacuate the observation levels," someone shouted. "The floor won't hold." People ran. Taeyang didn't move. He couldn't. He was watching his sister die all over again, or watching her be born again. He didn't know which. Hannah grabbed his arm. "We have to go." But before they could move, the Malgoth went completely still. The alarms cut off. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Down in the cavern, the beast lay motionless. The crystalline growths had covered most of its body now, forming a cocoon around it. The blue light pulsed from within, steady as a heartbeat. A council representative pushed through the crowd. It was one of the geometric beings, its shape spinning anxiously. "Seal the cavern," it ordered. "No one goes in or out. We need to analyze what's happening before we proceed." "Proceed with what?" a handler asked. The council representative's shape spun faster. "If necessary, we will terminate the Malgoth. It has served the council for 10,000 years, but nothing is worth the risk if it has been compromised." "Compromised by what?" Soman asked. The representative looked at her. "By something that should have died 3 days ago." That night, Taeyang couldn't sleep. He stood at his quarters window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home. A world that the council saw as dangerous simply because humans refused to give up. His communicator buzzed. It was Soman. "You need to see this," her message said. "I hacked deeper into the monitoring systems. The Malgoth's DNA is being rewritten. Human genes are spreading through its system like a virus. Commander, I don't think your sister is dead. I think she's taking over." Taeyang stared at the message for a long time. Then he looked back at the stars and smiled. Humans always found a way to survive, even when they shouldn't. 2 weeks had passed since the Malgoth sealed itself inside the crystal cocoon. 2 weeks of the council growing more nervous by the day. Soman had barely slept in all that time. She spent every moment studying the data flowing from the sensors in the cavern. What she was seeing should have been impossible, but the numbers didn't lie. Human DNA was spreading through the Malgoth's body, rewriting its genetic code one cell at a time. She had never seen anything like it. The human genes weren't destroying the beast. They were merging with it, creating something new, something that had never existed before. "You look terrible," a voice said behind her. Soman jumped and spun around. Taeyang stood in the doorway of her lab, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked tired too, but he managed a small smile. "You shouldn't be here," Soman said. "If anyone finds out I've been feeding you information, we're both dead. Then we better work fast." Taeyang handed her one of the cups and pulled up a chair. "What's the latest?" Soman pulled up her screens. "The transformation is almost complete. The Malgoth's original DNA is down to about 30%. Everything else is a hybrid of human and beast. But it's not random. It's organized like someone is designing it. Someone like Jiwoo, Taeyang said quietly. Maybe. The human consciousness might be guiding the changes. Soman zoomed in on a neural scan. Look at this. The Malgoth's brain has nearly doubled in size. New neural pathways are forming patterns that match human brain structure. If your sister's memories and personality were preserved in her DNA, they could be reconstructing themselves inside the beast. Taeyang leaned forward, studying the images. So she's alive? I don't know if alive is the right word. She's not human anymore. She's not the Malgoth anymore either. She's both. Or neither. I don't have the language to describe what she is. A warning light flashed on Soman's screen. She cursed and pulled up the alert. What is it? Taeyang asked. The council just called an emergency session. They're ordering the Malgoth to be destroyed. They ran to the council chambers, but they weren't allowed inside. Guards blocked the entrance. Through the doors, they could hear raised voices arguing in a dozen languages. Ambassador Hana found them in the corridor. They're voting right now. Most of the council wants the beast destroyed immediately. They're calling it a contamination, a threat to galactic security. It's not a threat, Taeyang said. It's my sister. They don't care. Hana's expression was grim. To them, it's an abomination, something that should never have existed. The doors opened. Council members filed out, their forms and faces unreadable. But Somin could tell from their movements that a decision had been made. The geometric council representative approached them. Its shapes were spinning slowly, almost sadly. The vote is complete. The Malgoth will be terminated within the hour. Thermal charges have been placed throughout the cavern. They will generate enough heat to sterilize everything inside. You can't do this, Taeyang said. His voice was shaking with controlled rage. That's a living being in there. That is a mistake, the representative said. One that the council should never have allowed to develop this far. The human will be destroyed properly this time. It floated away before Taeyang could respond. He turned to Hana, desperation in his eyes. Can you stop this? I've been trying. They won't listen. Hana shook her head. Earth doesn't have enough influence yet. We're too new, too weak. I'm sorry. Soman grabbed Taeyang's arm. The cavern. We need to get to the cavern. They ran. Behind them, alarms began to sound. The council was mobilizing security forces, preparing for the termination. They had maybe minutes before the charges activated. The massive door to the cavern was sealed, but Soman had access codes. Her hands shook as she entered them. The door began to grind open, agonizingly slow. What are you planning? Hana demanded. I don't know, Somin admitted. But I'm not letting them murder her without at least trying to help. The door opened wide enough for them to slip through. They ran down the slope into the cavern. The air was hot and thick, hard to breathe. The crystal cocoon dominated the center of the space, glowing with pulsing blue light. Taeyang approached it slowly. He placed his hand against the crystals. They were warm, like living skin. Jishu, he said. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. You need to wake up now. They're going to kill you. Nothing happened. The cocoon continued its steady pulse. Please, Taeyang said. His voice broke. I already watched you die once. I can't do it again. The light inside the cocoon began to pulse faster. Cracks appeared in the crystal surface. Someone pulled Taeyang back. Something's happening. The cracks spread. The light grew brighter and brighter until they had to shield their eyes. Then, with a sound like breaking ice, the cocoon shattered. The being that emerged was neither human nor beast. It was something in between. Something impossible and magnificent. She stood upright like a human, about 7 feet tall. Her skin was covered in fine scales that shifted between obsidian black and deep blue. Her face was recognizably Jiwoo's, but changed. Sharper, more angular. Her eyes glowed with that same warm light that had spread through the Malgoth. Behind her, massive wings unfurled, semi-transparent and lined with veins of light. She looked at her hands, turning them over slowly. When she spoke, her voice was layered. Jiwoo's voice mixed with something deeper and older. I remember, she said. I remember dying. I remember being eaten. I remember dissolving in acid, my cells breaking apart. She looked up at them, and I remember refusing to accept it. Jiwoo? Taeyang whispered. She focused on him, and her expression softened. Taeyang, my brother. She took a step forward. I'm still me, but I'm also not. I'm everything the Malgoth was. 10,000 years of memories. 10,000 executions. I feel them all inside me, everyone this beast ever consumed. Soman's scanner was going crazy. Your power output is off the scale. You're generating psionic energy levels that shouldn't be possible. The Council was right to fear humanity, Jiwoo said. We have something other species lost millions of years ago. We have the will to adapt, to survive, to become more than we were. When my DNA mixed with the Malgoths, it didn't just preserve me. It amplified everything I was. An explosion rocked the cavern. The thermal charges were activating. Heat began to build in the walls. We need to leave, Hana said. Now. Jiwoo's wings spread wider. No, I'm not running from them anymore. They'll kill you, Taeyang said. They have weapons, armies, entire fleets. Jiwoo looked at him, and for a moment he saw the little sister he had grown up with. The girl who had always been stubborn, who had never backed down from anything. Let them try, she said. She raised her hand. Psionic energy exploded outward. A wave of pure force that extinguished the thermal charges instantly. The entire station shook. Alarms blared throughout every level. Above them, on the observation deck, Council security forces were gathering. Heavy weapons, enough firepower to level a city. They opened fire through the transparent floor. Energy beams and projectiles rained down. Jiwoo didn't move. The attack simply stopped in the air around her, frozen by her will. With a gesture, she sent them all flying back. The transparent floor shattered. Security forces scrambled away from the edge. I'm not here to destroy you, Jiwoo called out, her voice carrying throughout the station. But I won't let you destroy me either. The Council murdered me for learning the truth. They've murdered thousands of innocents over the millennia, feeding them to the Malgoth. I carry all their memories now. I know every crime you've committed in the name of order. More forces arrived. Heavier weapons. They weren't giving up. Jiwoo sighed. I didn't want this. She exploded upward, her wings carrying her through the shattered floor. She moved too fast to track. Security forces fired, but she was everywhere and nowhere. She wasn't killing them, Taeyang realized. She was disabling their weapons, destroying their equipment, but leaving them alive. She burst through the station's hull into open space. Through the breach, they could see her hovering outside, silhouetted against the stars. Her wings spread wide, beautiful and terrible, and then she did something impossible. She reached out with her mind and touched every consciousness in the station at once. Taeyang felt it, a presence in his head that was both familiar and alien. I am Jiwoo, her voice said in everyone's mind. I am also the Malgoth. I am everyone this beast ever consumed, every innocent you fed to your executioner. You cannot hide your crimes anymore. Everyone in the galaxy will know what you've done. She released a wave of psionic energy that carried memories with it. The Council's secrets laid bare. The innocent beings executed to maintain control. The species suppressed for being too dangerous. The lies told to keep the old order in power. The broadcast went out across the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every being with the technology to receive it suddenly knew the truth. The Council had fallen in a single moment. Taeyang looked at Soman and Hana. They were both staring up at Jiwoo floating in space, their faces filled with awe and fear. What happens now? Soman whispered. Taeyang didn't have an answer. His sister had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Something powerful enough to destroy the oldest institution in known space. He just hoped she would remember how to be human. Jiwoo floated in the void between the stars, and for the first time since her transformation, she felt peace. Inside the station, chaos reigned. The Council's broadcast network had been hijacked by her psionic pulse. Every species in the galaxy now knew the truth about the thousands of innocent beings executed over the millennia. Protests were erupting on hundreds of worlds. Ships were gathering, demanding answers. But out here, surrounded by stars, Jiwoo could almost pretend she was still the young researcher who had dreamed of understanding the cosmos. Almost. You need to come back inside. Taeyang's voice crackled through the comm system. They're scrambling attack ships. If you stay out there, they'll see it as an act of war. Jiwoo smiled sadly. They already see me as a war. I'm living proof that they can't control everything. She turned to look at the station. Through her enhanced vision, she could see people moving behind the walls, security forces organizing, counselors arguing, and a ship launching from the military dock headed straight for her. The ship opened fire without warning. Energy beams cut through space. Jiwoo raised her hand and the beams curved around her harmlessly. She could feel the fear of the pilots inside the ship. They were terrified, following orders they didn't believe in. She didn't want to hurt them. But she wouldn't let them hurt her either. With a thought, she disabled their weapon systems. The ship drifted to a stop, powerless. Inside, she heard the pilots cursing, trying to reboot their systems. "I'm not your enemy," Jiwoo broadcast to them. "I never was." More ships launched. A dozen, then 2 dozen. They surrounded her, weapons charged and ready, but they didn't fire. Someone had learned from the first ship's mistake. "Attention, hostile entity." The transmission came from the lead ship. "You are in violation of Union law. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "I have a name," Jiwoo said. "Use it." Surrender, Jiwoo. She could sense something else behind the transmission. Not just fear, but confusion. The pilots had seen her broadcast. They knew what the council had done. Some of them didn't want to fight her at all. "I'll return to the station," Jiwoo said, "but not as a prisoner. As someone demanding justice." Before they could respond, a new ship appeared. This one was different. Sleek and dark, built for speed and stealth. Earth's colors were painted on its hull. "This is Captain Daehyun of the Earth vessel Horizon," a new voice transmitted. "We're here to extract a human citizen from an unlawful detention." Jiwoo felt a surge of hope. Earth had come for her, but she also felt worry. The Horizon was one ship against the entire Council fleet. "Earth vessel, stand down," the Council commander ordered. "This does not concern you." "A human citizen was executed without proper evidence," Daehyun replied. His voice was calm but firm. "That concerns us very much." More Earth ships began appearing out of hyperspace. Not many, just 5, but they were all military vessels. They formed up around Jiwoo, a protective barrier. The Council ships backed off slightly. No one wanted to fire the first shot. That would mean war. "Brother," Jiwoo transmitted privately to Taeyang inside the station. "Did you call them?" "The moment you broke free, I contacted Earth Command," Taeyang replied. "You're not alone in this." Jiwoo felt something warm in her chest. Despite everything that had changed, despite becoming something inhuman, people still cared about her. Still wanted to protect her. "All ships fall back," a new voice commanded. This transmission came from the Council station itself, from the highest authority. "We will negotiate." The Council ships retreated. The Earth ships held position. Jiwoo flew back toward the station, the Horizon escorting her. When she entered through the breach in the hull, she saw that the main assembly chamber had been prepared. The 12 counselors sat in their positions, but they looked different now. Smaller somehow. Less certain. Taeyang, Hana, and Somin were there too, standing to one side. Behind them stood Captain Daehyun and a squad of Earth Marines. They weren't armed with weapons, just their presence, a reminder that Earth was watching. Jiwoo landed softly in the center of the chamber, her wings folded behind her. She stood tall, meeting the eyes of each counselor in turn. "You asked for this meeting," she said. "I'm here, talk," the geometric counselor spoke first. "What you did was an act of aggression. You breached our security, destroyed our property, and exposed classified information. By all rights, we should execute you again." "Try it," Jiwoo said flatly. "See how that works out." "We don't want more violence," another counselor said. This one looked like a tree made of crystal, its voice like wind through branches. "But you must understand our position. You are unprecedented, a hybrid of species that should never have existed. Your power is unregulated, uncontrolled." "You're afraid of me," Jiwoo said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," the crystal counselor admitted. "You could destroy this station with a thought. You could kill us all. Of course we're afraid." Jiwoo looked at them, these ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for so long. They looked old now, tired, scared. "I don't want to destroy anything," she said quietly. "I just want justice. For myself and for the thousands of beings you murdered. I carry their memories now. I feel their fear, their innocence, their desperate hope that someone would save them. No one did." "The Devourer's judgment was a necessary tool for maintaining order," the head counselor said. "Sometimes harsh measures are required for the greater good." "No." Jiwoo's voice hardened. "You used it to eliminate anyone who threatened your power. Species that were too innovative, too independent, too dangerous to your control. You didn't execute criminals. You executed potential." She gestured, and holographic images appeared in the air around them, faces of the beings the Malgoth had consumed. Hundreds of them. Thousands. This was a scientist who discovered a new form of faster-than-light travel. You killed her because it would have shifted the balance of power. This was a philosopher who advocated for democratic reform. You killed him to silence his ideas. This was a child, barely 10 years old by her species standard, accused of theft. You fed her to your beast. The counselors looked away from the images, but Jiwoo wouldn't let them hide. You wanted me to see these memories, she said. You wanted me to know what happens to those who challenge the council. But you made a mistake. You fed me to a creature that could preserve consciousness. And my species has one trait you didn't account for. We don't give up. Not even in death. What do you want? The head counselor asked. Revenge? Jiwoo was quiet for a long moment. She could feel the power inside her. Enough to crack this station in half. Enough to make them pay for what they did to her. To everyone. But she also felt something else. The memory of sitting with her brother when she was young, watching stars through a telescope. The memory of her parents teaching her that being strong meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The memory of every human who had ever looked up at the sky and dreamed of being better. I want the council dissolved, she said finally. I want trials for those who gave the orders for unlawful executions. I want the Devourer's judgment abolished forever, and I want a new system. One where every species has a voice, where power is shared, where justice actually means something. That would take years to implement, a counselor protested. The chaos during the transition would be catastrophic. Then start now, Jiwoo said. Because I'm not going away. I'm going to be here watching, making sure you follow through. And if you don't? She let her wings spread wide, let her power flare bright. Then maybe revenge is the answer after all. Ambassador Hana stepped forward. Earth supports these demands. We propose a transitional council that includes representatives from all species, not just the oldest. We propose oversight and accountability. We propose a galaxy where execution is the last resort, not the first. Other transmissions began flooding in. Species that had watched Jiwoo's broadcast, that had seen the truth. They were supporting her demands. Some were calling for complete revolution. Others were more cautious but still wanted change. The council couldn't ignore this, not when the entire galaxy was watching. The head counselor looked tired. We will consider your proposals, but this cannot happen overnight. I'll give you 3 months, Jiwoo said. 3 months to begin real reforms. After that I come back. And if nothing has changed, I won't be as patient. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. I want access to the Malgoth's chamber. There are genetic traces down there. Remnants of everyone the beast consumed. I think I can use them. I think I can give some of those people a chance to speak for themselves. Impossible, a counselor said. The dead cannot be resurrected. Jiwoo smiled. You said the same thing about me. Look how that turned out. She walked out of the chamber, her brother and the Earth delegation following. Behind her, the counselor sat in stunned silence. Outside, Captain Daehyun approached her. He was younger than she expected, maybe 33, with sharp eyes and a confident stance. That was well done, he said. Scary, but well done. Thank you for coming, Jiwoo said. You didn't have to risk war for me. Yes, we did, Daehyun replied. You're one of ours. Earth doesn't abandon its people, even when they become something more than human. Jiwoo felt tears on her face. She hadn't cried since the transformation. Hadn't thought she could anymore. Taeyang put his hand on her shoulder. Come on, let's go home. I don't know if I can, Jiwoo said. I'm not sure Earth would want me. Not like this. Then let's find out, her brother said. Together they boarded the horizon. As the ship pulled away from the council station, Jiwoo looked back one last time. She had died there, been reborn there, started something that might change the galaxy forever. She just hoped she had the strength to see it through. 3 months had changed the galaxy more than 10,000 years of council rule. Jiwoo stood at the observation window of the new Galactic assembly station, watching ships arrive from every corner of known space. Each one carried representatives from species that had never been allowed to speak before. The station was smaller than the old council headquarters, but it felt more alive, more hopeful. Behind her, the assembly chamber buzzed with conversation in hundreds of languages. The old council had been dissolved. 7 of its members were on trial for crimes against sentient beings. The others had retired quietly, accepting their loss of power with whatever dignity they could manage. It's almost time, Taeyang said, entering the observation room. He wore a new uniform now, marking him as Earth's military liaison to the assembly. The promotion had come with Jiwoo's success, though he joked that it was more of a punishment. More meetings, more politics, less time actually flying. I know, Jiwoo said. I'm just gathering my thoughts. She looked different these days. She had learned to control her transformation, shifting between forms. Right now she appeared almost human, though her eyes still glowed faintly and her skin held a hint of scales. It made others more comfortable, less afraid. Taeyang stood beside her, looking out at the ships. Are you nervous? Terrified, Jiwoo admitted. I'm about to tell the galaxy that I can bring back echoes of the dead. Some people will think I'm a miracle. Others will think I'm playing God. What do you think? Jiwoo smiled sadly. I think I'm just doing what I can with what I've become. A young man appeared in the doorway. Minho, barely 26, wearing the badge of the new Galactic Medical Initiative. He looked excited and scared at the same time. Jiwoo, they're ready for you. Minho was special. He was one of the first humans to develop psionic abilities naturally. No transformation needed. His powers were weak compared to Jiwoo's, but they were growing. And he wasn't alone. Across Earth and its colonies, humans were awakening to abilities that had always been there, just sleeping. The Council had been right to fear humanity, but wrong about what that fear should make them do. Jiwoo followed Minho into the assembly chamber. Thousands of beings packed the space, with millions more watching through broadcasts across the galaxy. Ambassador Hana sat at the front, now serving as interim chair of the assembly. She looked proud and worried at the same time. The assembly recognizes Jiwoo of Earth, Hana announced. She has requested time to present findings from her work in the old council caverns. Jiwoo walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye, every sensor, every form of attention focused on her. She took a deep breath and began. 3 months ago, I was executed for discovering a truth the council wanted hidden. I was fed to a beast that had consumed thousands of innocent beings over millennia. But something happened that no one expected. My DNA refused to accept death. It adapted, merged, became something new. She gestured, and a hologram appeared above her. It showed the structure of human DNA, the markers that made them unique. Humans have a trait that exists nowhere else in the galaxy. Under extreme stress, our genetic code can activate abilities beyond normal biology. Adaptation, regeneration, and in rare cases, the preservation of consciousness through genetic memory. When I merged with the Malgoth, I didn't just survive. I inherited the genetic traces of everyone the beast had ever consumed. Murmurs spread through the chamber, some excited, some horrified. I've spent the last 3 months working with xenobiologists from 20 different species, including our own Soman, who risked her life to help expose the truth. Together, we've developed a process. Using the genetic traces left in the cavern, combined with my unique hybrid biology, we can create something I call echo consciousnesses. A counselor stood up. You're talking about resurrection. That's impossible and unethical. Not resurrection, Jiwoo corrected. These won't be the original beings. They'll be echoes, copies based on genetic memory. They won't have full lifespans or physical forms, but they can speak. They can testify. They can tell their stories. Why would you do this? Another representative asked. Because justice demands it, Jiwoo said simply. The beings the council murdered deserve to be heard. Their species deserve to know what happened to them, and those responsible need to face their victims. She raised her hand. Psionic energy flowed from her, filling the chamber with soft blue light. The light coalesced into figures, translucent, ghostly but recognizable. A scientist from a species that looked like walking crystals. A philosopher whose form resembled flowing water. A child, small and scared and innocent, and hundreds more filling the spaces between the assembled representatives. The chamber fell silent. Everyone stared at the echoes, these ghosts of the council's victims. One of the echoes stepped forward. It was the crystal scientist, the one Jiwoo had shown the council during her confrontation. My name was Keleth, the echo said. Her voice was soft but clear. I was executed 200 years ago for developing a new form of propulsion. I was not a spy. I was not a threat. I was just curious about how the universe worked. Another echo spoke. I was Vern. I wrote essays about equality among species. They called it sedition. I called it hope. One by one, the echoes told their stories. The chamber listened, and many of those listening began to weep. The echoes weren't angry. They weren't vengeful. They just wanted to be remembered, to have their truth finally known. When the last echo finished speaking, Jiwoo let the psionic energy fade. The figures dissolved back into light. These echoes will last only a few weeks, Jiwoo explained. But in that time, they can give testimony at the trials. They can tell investigators what really happened. And they can bring closure to families who never knew what became of their loved ones. A representative from an insectoid species stood up. This is unprecedented. We have no laws governing this kind of evidence. Then we need to write new laws, Hana said firmly. The galaxy is changing. We must change with it. The debate that followed lasted hours. Some representatives argued that the echoes were abominations. Others called them miracles. Eventually, a vote was taken. The echoes would be allowed to testify, but only at the trials of council members. After that, the assembly would decide whether to allow the practice to continue. It was a compromise. Not perfect, but a start. After the session ended, Jiwoo found herself surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. Representatives asking if she could create echoes for their species' victims. Scientists wanting to study her abilities. Religious leaders wanting to know if she had seen an afterlife. She answered as best she could, but she was exhausted. Creating the echoes had taken more energy than she wanted to admit. Finally, Taeyang rescued her, guiding her away from the crowd to a quiet corner. You did good, he said. I terrified half the assembly, Jiwoo replied. Yeah, but you gave hope to the other half. That's pretty good math. They found Somin waiting near the transport dock. She had been promoted too, now heading the xenobiology division of the new Galactic Medical Initiative. She looked happy, healthier than she had during those tense days 3 months ago. The trial for the head counselor starts next week, Somin said. They want you to testify. I'll be there, Jiwoo promised. A group of young humans approached hesitantly. They wore the uniforms of the new psionic development program that Earth had established. Minhyo was with them, clearly having brought them here. We're sorry to bother you, one of them said, a girl who couldn't have been more than 18. But we wanted to thank you. Before you did what you did, we thought we were freaks. Now we understand we're just the next step. Jiwoo smiled. You're not the next step. You're just you. The abilities are tools, nothing more. What matters is what you choose to do with them. What will you do? The girl asked. Now that the council is gone and the assembly is forming. What's next for you? It was a good question. Jiwoo had been so focused on justice, on reform, on making sure the council's victims were heard. She hadn't thought much about her own future. I don't know, she admitted. I'm still figuring out what I am, much less what I'm supposed to do. Taeyang put his hand on her shoulder. You could come home. Earth would welcome you, no matter what you look like. Jiwoo thought about that. Earth. Home. The place where she had grown up, where she had dreamed of the stars. Could she really go back? Would she even fit anymore? Maybe, she said. But first there's something I need to do. She took a transport to the old council station. It was being converted into a memorial now, a place to remember all those who had died under the Devourer's judgment. The cavern where the Malgoth had lived was being transformed into a garden, with crystal formations growing naturally where the beast had once been kept. Jiwoo stood at the edge of the cavern looking down. She could still feel traces of the Malgoth here. Part of her would always be that creature, always carry its memories and power. But she was also still Jiwoo, still the researcher who had wanted to understand the universe, still the human who refused to give up. She heard footsteps behind her. When she turned, she saw dozens of beings approaching. Different species, different worlds, but all with similar stories. They were families of the victims, come to see the place where their loved ones had died. We wanted to thank you, one of them said, for giving our mother a voice, even if just for a little while. We never knew what happened to her. Now we can finally grieve properly. Jiwoo felt tears on her face again. She still cried often, despite everything. Maybe that was the most human thing about her. Your mother was brave, Jiwoo said. They all were. They died for threatening a corrupt system just by being themselves. I wish I could bring them back fully. But at least now everyone knows the truth. Over the next few weeks, the trials proceeded. The echoes testified, speaking truth to power in a way that couldn't be denied or dismissed. 3 former council members were sentenced to exile on remote worlds. 2 were stripped of their titles and fortunes, forced to live as ordinary citizens. The others received various punishments, none as harsh as what they had inflicted on others, but enough to mark the end of their reign. Earth's representatives, led by Hana, pushed through sweeping reforms. The Devourer's judgment was abolished. Capital punishment was banned throughout Union space except in the most extreme circumstances, with oversight from multiple species. New courts were established to hear appeals from beings previously convicted under the old system. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was better. Mino and the other developing psionics formed the core of a new organization dedicated to helping others like them. Some species were terrified of psionic abilities. Others were curious. A few wanted to develop their own. The galaxy was learning that change didn't have to mean destruction. 3 months after the trials ended, Jiwoo stood at the edge of known space, at a research station monitoring the dark void between galaxies. Taeyang was with her, along with Somin and Captain Daehyun. The horizon floated nearby, ready for whatever came next. "I've been sensing something," Jiwoo said quietly. "Through my connection to the Malgoth's memories. There are other creatures out there. Other ancient predators sleeping in the dark. The Malgoth wasn't unique. It was just the only one the Council had captured." "Are they threats?" Daehyun asked, his hand moving instinctively to his sidearm. "I don't know," Jiwoo admitted. "But I need to find out. Someone has to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to others. Someone has to watch the dark places and make sure nothing else comes hunting." "You're not doing this alone," Taeyang said firmly. "Where you go, Earth goes." Jiwoo looked at her brother, at the people who had become her family through fire and transformation. She had died 3 months ago, been reborn as something the galaxy had never seen, started a revolution that toppled an empire older than human civilization, and now she was going to fly into the unknown, looking for ancient predators in the dark. It was terrifying. It was impossible. It was exactly what a human would do. "All right then," Jiwoo said, spreading her wings. They glowed against the starlight, beautiful and terrible. "Let's see what else is out there." She leaped into space, her form shifting to its full draconic aspect. Behind her, the horizon's engines flared to life. Together they accelerated toward the edge of known space, toward mysteries that had slept for millions of years. The galaxy watched them go, some with hope, some with fear, all with the understanding that everything had changed. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and they had proven what Jiwoo had said with her last words before execution. They would survive. They would adapt. They would become something greater than anyone expected. They always did. In the dark between galaxies, something ancient stirred, sensing the approach of a hybrid consciousness it didn't understand. It began to wake, curious about this small being that dared to venture into its domain. It would soon learn what the Galactic Council had learned too late. Humans don't back down. Not from death. Not from gods. Not from the dark. They fly toward it with wings spread and hearts fearless, ready to face whatever comes. Because that's what humans do. They survive. They adapt. They become legend.